Happy holidays from the Signal Watch. This year, we're watching movies that are Christmas films, but which fall into at least one other genre. We're looking for films that mix up a bit of the spirit of the season with horror, sci-fi, or whatever our co-contributors brought to the table. So, get out the eggnog and join us for some holiday fun as we talk a few Christmas movies. Stay merry. We're gonna try to make this work.
Merry, Merry Christmas. Don't change, kids, stay with us. Stay a little, Jesus. Hold on to my hand. It's not a long way to fly, you know. Don't fly.
Okay, we are recording. Happy holidays and welcome back to the Signal Watch. As always, I'm your host, Ryan Steens, and with me today is
Justin Lincoln. Hello, everyone. Happy holidays.
Happy holidays. And today we are covering a movie that goes by many names. It is a French film. I'm not going to try and do the French pronunciation, but it's roughly, you want to help me with this?
Well, I think in French, so it's 3615 code Père Noël.
Mm-hmm.
But I would say in these United States, it's most commonly known as either Deadly Games or Dial Code Santa Claus.
Weirdly, though, it's on IMDb, it's Game Over.
Okay. And I also see it may also be referred to as Hide and Freak.
Oh, good God.
Hide and Freak. Okay. Well,
always a good sign when they keep releasing it under different names. But
yeah.
But it's 1989, and I'd never heard of this movie before. Never heard anyone discuss it or bring it up. My first, so what I had done was I put out a Google spreadsheet to folks who might participate and said, hey, can you grab a week and put the name of a movie in that we're going to do? With what the pitch for this year is a genre Christmas movie. Like I'm looking for like a sci-fi Christmas movie, a musical Christmas movie. You pick the genre and we'll do it. Last week's episode was Krampus, so you can go look for that if you want to. But this week we are doing the many-titled, I'm going to call it Deadly Games, because that's the name I watch it on Shudder.
Okay. Yeah, and I think that's what it's most widely known as, Deadly Games.
So the French title seems to be referring to, and I had to touch some brain cells I hadn't touched since about 1993 or 94. So Justin and I had this kind of mutual friend in college, Pat Sanchez, who had grown up in Spain and France. And he was like the first guy I knew who was like, get a job in computers. Everything's about to change. The U.S. is finally getting like on the internet and it's going to be amazing. And he knew all about Minitel, which is like this technology this movie just takes for granted, which is basically early, almost like Prodigy, or like AOL, pre-AOL, like an online experience, where you could like chat with each other. What it looks like really to current American eyes is there's a service for people who are hearing impaired, who like someone sits in between and like, or you can type back and forth to each other over phone lines. And that's essentially what I think Minitel kind of was back in the day. But that, when I saw Minitel pop up as like going to be this like key part of this film, I was like, oh my God, I haven't thought about that in like 20 years.
Yeah. And so I saw it a couple of years back at like a midnight showing at Fantastic Fest. And it was the perfect conditions to see a movie like this.
Oh yeah, I bet.
And I mean, the director was there, and he talked a little bit about this kind of this technology, which it feels like the U.S. kind of leapt over, really. Mm-hmm. So even when he described it, it was still kind of foreign to me. But yeah, I mean, I think you've summarized it.
Yeah, but so Justin puts this name on this spreadsheet, and I was like, you know, what is this? What? And I looked it up and I kind of read about it, and I was like, okay, this sounds great. This sounds like exactly what I want to be doing this year. So the first thing I would say is, I refuse now to believe that the people who made Home Alone hadn't seen this.
Oh, I agree. I mean, it's been years since I've seen Home Alone, but this is, I mean, it's a pretty similar setup, right? I mean, it's a child who knows how to make a bunch of contraptions, fights intruder, but this is definitely more extreme, but also I think it feels a lot more sincere to me. Like they're taking it seriously. Like this feels like a Schwarzenegger film for kids. And I think that they do a really good job of kind of like making it sincere. Like it's not, there's a lot to chuckle at and there's a lot to laugh at. I mean, there's these amazing montages. I mean, there's a training montage, there's a setting the traps montage, and they're done very seriously. So it's, I mean, I think the filmmakers really had a lot of fun with this thing.
Yeah. I mean, and I think you will too if you watch it. You, the universal you who is listening to this. But yeah, it is definitely, I mean, it's on the cusp of being rated R. Like with one or two cuts, this could have been PG-13 pretty easily. Mm-hmm. It's a lot more suggested because clearly they knew kids were going to end up watching this. So it's not like a splatter fest. It's not that kind of horror movie. But what the setup is, that the reason we compare it to Home Alone is this kid who's living in essentially a castle in France. His father has passed, and his mother seems to have kind of buried herself in her work, and she's managing. France has these giant department stores like we don't really have in the U.S., and she's managing one of those. And on Christmas Eve, she's gone off to go to work to make sure, things are humming. And she clearly loves her son. She loves the fact that he's like 10 and still believes in Santa, and she's encouraging that. And he like lives at home with like his kind of dotty grandfather. And basically in her like rush to try and embrace what he's feeling about Christmas on Christmas Eve, says, we got to throw a party tonight at the store, for the customers, hire like a bunch of Santas and dancers and whatever, and accidentally hires a crazy guy who, I mean, that's kind of the definition. I don't know. Is there more character to him than, oh, he's a crazy guy?
No, he's a wonderfully crazy guy. I mean, he's crazy throughout the movie. I mean, there's thank goodness no character arc for this guy. I mean, he starts out trying to jump into a snowball fight with a bunch of little kids who I think either the snowball fight is ending when he jumps in, or they kind of know this guy's a little off. But yeah, he's just like this kind of a rejected continually rejected crazy man who clearly has a lot of issues.
Yeah. So he ends up scaring or actually slapping a little girl, and decides and when he goes to the office to go collect his check because he's been fired, figures out where this lady who'd fired him is where she lives, and he heads off to that house. I don't want to give away too much on all that, but and then he basically stalks this kid who, when you meet him, is basically has just seen Commando. They never say Commando. He's clearly just watched Commando, and he's like doing the face paint, and they cut the aforementioned montage is right out of Commando. So yeah. Mark Lester must have been feeling very excited, as someone appreciates my work overseas. But yeah, so they have this crazy set of what's supposed to be the inside of a castle, and all of the traps that the kid sets and all this. But the thing that struck me about it is, for like the first 30 minutes, and this was on Shudder, which was a good setup for me to know to kind of what to expect, what was coming. If you don't know Shudder, it's a streaming service that does horror.
Yeah, it's a really wonderful streaming system.
Yeah, and they don't put kids movies in there, but for the first 30 minutes, it feels very much like a kids movie. Like even the stuff that's like, oh, this is going to cause problems. Mom's got a boyfriend now. All felt very much in the vein of like any other like kids Christmas movie, where you could almost see in a different movie where that stuff was going to track to.
Right. So one thing I will say is, I think the movie, I really enjoy this movie, and every time I watch it, I just find something more to appreciate. It's not a movie without its flaws, and I'm sure we'll kind of get to it towards the end. There, it feels a little chopped up at the end. They kind of throw in a little too much stuff at the end of the movie to where they could have cut it out. But on this last watch, one of the things I really appreciated was, even though the end feels maybe a little overstuffed, they really just kind of keep the narrative, for the most part, really tight. I mean, I could see a lesser movie where the boyfriend becomes an issue, or he's kind of this character, but seems like a pretty stand-up guy. I mean, he's paying the Santas and helping out mom when her sweet Portia spins out of control.
And he's not threatened by the fact that she's, above him in the company or anything. And he's not really exploiting it or anything. He's not like, there's no angle for him other than he seems to like her.
Right. Yeah. I think a less focused movie would have had some little plot where he's trying to kind of do something where he's not really there for the woman or the kid. He's trying to work his way up into the family or something like this. But I appreciated not having to worry about that and just being able to concentrate on little Tomas versus crazy Santa Claus.
Yeah. And I mean, there's not much more to say about it, because that is the plot. Is like they get, once Santa has shown up, and I don't think he ever has a name.
No, I don't believe so. I forget even how they refer to him in the credits. I kept wondering if they would give him a little bit of a silly name, but I don't recall.
Yeah, no, he's just listed as Santa Claus on IMDb. So
okay, and he's great. I mean, this guy he looks menacing, in not like a angry, dangerous sort of way, but this guy has God, what was the guy? I mean, he's got a really unique face. This time around, I was reminded a little bit of, I forget his last name, Marjo, the guy from Star Crash, is it?
Yeah.
I mean, he's got a unique
Marjo
face.
Gunter.
This guy, yes. Yeah, this guy's got a great face as well. I mean, he's got he's got crazy eyes. He's got really good crazy eyes. And so hopefully if you're listening to this, you have seen it. And if you haven't seen it, I highly recommend it. And I'm about to talk about things that happen in this movie. So essentially I'm going to get into some spoilers.
Yep. You've been warned. So pause it, go watch the film. We'll catch up with you when you get back.
Yeah. Alrighty. I think maybe the best thing about this movie, and I didn't catch it the first time around, and I didn't really even catch it too much the second time around, but I think one of the most brilliant things about this movie is the entire run of the movie, up until the very, very end. The kid thinks this is Santa Claus. The kid has no idea that this is just a crazy person. So one of the things the mom tells the kid early on is, I have a daughter. We try to tell her, like, oh, Santa Claus doesn't come until you're asleep. Is the mom tells the kid, if you stay up and you see Santa Claus will turn into an ogre, which is clearly the mom's attempt to get the kid to go to sleep. So throughout the movie, the kid, and there's these little flashbacks kind of later on, is the kid thinks he stayed up too late. He saw Santa Claus and turned Santa Claus into an ogre. So it was lost on me that this entire movie, the kid thinks Santa Claus is trying to kill him. He has no idea this is just some crazy man who has broken into his house and killed the servants. I think that's a really nice touch. I think in another movie, the kid would have figured out, like, this guy is Santa Claus, that there would have been some sort of news bulletin that showed crazy man escapes sort of thing. But I really like that. And we'll kind of go through the movie. But on this theme of the kid thinking it's Santa, like, one of the last shots of this movie, or in fact, the last shot, is when Crazy Santa is dead. He is reaching for the chimney. And at the end of this movie, this kid thinks he's killed Santa Claus.
Yeah.
I mean, he thinks Santa Claus is dead at the end of this movie, and it ends. The mom never has the opportunity to tell him anything. I mean, the mom doesn't know what's going on. She just knows her kiddo is in trouble. This is a wonderful holiday movie.
But no, I loved that too. I will say I at some point, I don't know, maybe 3/4 of the way through the film, I had that realization of, like, he still thinks, because of the ogre thing, that this is him. And he lives in a castle on a hill. He's living this totally charmed life. He has secret passages within the castle that he goes in between, that even his mother and grandfather who live there don't know about. And there's, like, at the beginning, he wakes up and he's in the cockpit of an airplane that got stowed in there at some point. And apparently there's just generations of whoever was the boy in the house, their toys they keep in this area. And so part of what's fascinating about this film too is it's weirdly beautiful in a lot of ways. Mm-hmm. The cinematography goes in for, like, some surreal bits, but all using practical scenery and sets. There's only one sequence that I was like, I don't understand why that would be in your house. I mean, I don't understand why a giant secret passage, but I'm like, it is looks like a castle, and things get walled off. People don't have an idea in their full map in their head of their house, but and when you live in a huge castle, I guess. But he was the art gallery sequence, which was amazing. Like, that was so good. When he's running through a part of the house that I guess really his mother lives in.
Is this like the maze sort of thing where he keeps getting lost? So I kept thinking of that as, because it is pretty early on. Mm-hmm. I could be wrong here, but it's pretty early on in the movie. I kind of thought of that as him just freaking out and getting lost in his house. That it wasn't, that scene was supposed to be very like from his point of view.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I think that's I thought that's what was going on too, till they did the overhead shot.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was like, now I don't know. And I don't care, because the overhead shot is great.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, you touched on it. I mean, it's such a deliberate movie. I mean, it's really well shot. I love the soundtrack. I mean, who sings that song?
Bonnie
it's somebody.
Tyler?
Yes. It's the lyrics of this song are wonderful, and I don't know if this thing is available, but
if
when you watch
I will
the
cut
movie,
it in here. Okay, well, either I found it or I didn't.
but it was great either way. Yeah, I mean, it's so well done. I mean, the cinematography is really good. There are these really sharp, like, big, long dolly shots. There's all these crane shots. It's not, I don't know what the budget of this thing would have been, but this guy knows what he's doing. And apparently, I guess Spielberg really liked this movie. So if you look on IMDb, you see this movie, and then there may be a couple of other little things, but then it's like 4 episodes of Young Indiana Jones, which I never really watched Young Indiana Jones, but now I'm kind of curious to go and find this guy's episodes.
Yeah, I mean, it came out when you and I were like seniors in high school, not hanging out on Friday nights watching Young Indiana Jones, I think. But so the movie also does this thing with the main character that I really, really like. He's this really, really smart kid, and he's not like a smart aleck in any way. He still acts like a kid. And his mom talks about how he has this really high IQ, and he can do all these things with computers and all this stuff. And you see him doing these things, and they're not that unrealistic, kind of. He's learned how to kind of like fix his mom's car for her. And so he's consequently learned to drive his mom's car because they live out in the country. But he's also patched in the biggest fantasy element, really, and this ties into him he keeps talking to his dog JR, who he says, we're going to be the first people, I'm going to be the first kid to ever actually see Santa, because they have this like security system that covers every inch of the house, and he's patched into it with this giant thing he's wearing on his wrist that can let him basically switch between the cameras in the house, which of course, once Santa shows up, plays a key role. But they do, talking about him still believing in Santa, and that's really what it all plays into. And so the movie doesn't ever really do the thing. They do the thing of kind of like him losing his innocence, but through this totally weird, distorted lens of the fantasy basically just deepens. Like everything he's been pretending to be, because it opens with him going on his Schwarzenegger commando mission through the house and like jumping over his grandpa on his bed and all this stuff, but then he actually has to do all of these things that like kids sit around fantasizing about, and that to me is kind of the horror of the movie. Of what and at the same time, the punchline of him still thinking it's Santa, but he's actually having to like fight this guy, tooth and nail, who you never see it, But the only death I think you see on screen is the dog, right?
Oh yeah, yeah. I think so. I mean, yeah, that's got to be right. I mean, there's the two caretakers, but I don't think you
It's all
see them
implied.
get it. Yeah, but I think it's really smart to show Santa like kicking the dog and then picking up the little serving knife and stabbing the dog, which I think is a pretty good move to set the stakes pretty early on. That, I mean, because I feel like up until that point it's been pretty tame, and it could be, you could still go this kid's route, but at that point it's kind of an all bets are off sort of thing.
Oh yeah.
And I mean, I got worried for old grandpa towards the end of this movie. I mean, between having the kid having to find the insulin for grandpa and the really wonderful sequence where the kid rigs the train with the lighter and the hand grenade. And I mean, it's a pretty tense, I mean, it's a pretty tense scene. And it's, again, I mean, this movie is so deliberate and so smart that I think he really knows how to play with an audience. I mean, because that train scene it goes kind of the way you think it's probably going to go. And then they kind of turn the tables. And then at the very end, I mean, nothing really happens with the train.
Right. Well, and there's an interesting bit in that sequence too, because that was the first time I really realized they set it up at the beginning of this guy wants to play with children. And he has basically got his hands on Thomas and lets him go at that point.
Oh yeah.
And that's when I realized that's why it's called Deadly Games. Like, he's playing, he thinks he's playing with Thomas right up till the second he dies. So he has his own complete delusion going on while Thomas has his delusion going on. So it's a crazy movie.
It definitely is. I mean, and really that train scene, I mean, he's coming after Thomas, and then it's almost like he's not upset by the fact that Thomas just tried to send a grenade full of marbles at this guy's head. I mean, he picks up the train, he kind of sees it, he just likes listening to the little Christmas train music and sets it off straight to Thomas, and then inadvertently straight towards grandpa. He's a really good character. I mean, when he is not upset about the train, you realize kind of how crazy the guy is. And it kind of comes late in the movie, and clearly he's crazy. But like the joy on his face at listening to this Christmas music and seeing this train, you're like, oh, okay, you're in trouble, Thomas. I mean, not only is this guy trying to kill you, he's trying to have fun with it as well. So yeah, when he gets Thomas and he's like, okay, well, I'm going to give you 20 seconds to run. You're like, oh no.
Yeah, I mean, it's not I've never seen Black Christmas. I was fully expecting someone to pick Black Christmas out of their hat for this year.
Well, I think all the Black Christmases are worth watching.
Duly noted. So. Okay. So I've been intending to, because Margot Kidder's in the original, right?
There's so many amazing people in that original film. I mean, Margot Kidder is in it. Olivia Hussey is in it. Andrea, oh my gosh, I'm blanking on her last name, from SCTV.
Andrea Martin?
Yes.
Oh, wow. I'm definitely watching it.
Yeah, I mean, Bob Clark is also fantastic.
Well, right. Who, by the way, is the director of Christmas Story?
And Porky's.
And Porky's. So the guy's got a storied career.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, so I was expecting it to be a little more, maybe I've not seen Silent Night, Deadly Night, but just kind of like a psychopath in a Santa suit chasing a kid around. So it's going to take, like, you're going to know the kid's going to survive, but who all's going to get an axe? And there's a sequence in this where he hits the Minitel. Like, it's a completely stressful sequence watching this kid get to the Minitel. But he finally gets there, and he's going to send out his emergency message. And he, for some reason, messages his like buddy who lives down the street, who his buddy doesn't tell his parents. He rides his bike over there, I think because he says Santa's trying to kill me.
Yeah, and the friend is right. I mean, he warned us way back when. Thomas is like, I'm going to get on this thing. I'm going to talk to Santa Claus. And the friend is like, the internet is full of perverts, dude. Do not do this.
It's true. And so I was like, oh my God, they're going to kill a little kid in this movie. Like, I fully really thought that was about to happen. And if you've seen it, or, sorry if I'm spoiling, but I really thought in that sequence, like, oh, the kid who didn't believe is going to get it. Like,
oh, me too. He's so good on his BMX bike, getting the hell out of there.
But yeah, I mean, I think it's super creative. The cinematography in it is kind of like, we've talked about how like interesting it is, but like even the lighting in it, like in the kind of forbidden chamber or whatever where all the toys are, the sequence where Thomas gets outside of the house briefly through the window, like I know how they shot that. It's clearly on a set somewhere. But I mean, you totally buy into it, and it looks just surreal and bizarre. But yeah, and so the mother is still basically like, this whole thing takes place within maybe, I don't know, the back 2/3 of the movie, maybe in like an hour, 2 hours.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah, it's practically in real time, and so. Yeah, she basically has figured out, like, he's not picking up. Like, if he'd gone to the hospital with his grandfather, he would have called to tell me that's what was happening. But this is new, and this is weird. So she's trying to race home. Like you said, the boyfriend's trying to help, and things go awry as she's trying to get home. So they don't really show up till the absolute last second. I mean, they've already sent the cops in. She's called the cops from her 1989 car phone, and the cop gets dispatched because you got to, if you're a cop in a horror movie looking into something, you're not making it out.
No.
But yeah, I mean, it's. If you're like me and you watched Home Alone, and I mean, I was, I think 17 or 18 when Home Alone came out. That's the only time I ever saw it, and was just like, this is aimed at much younger people or much older people taking much younger people. Mm-hmm. This is not aimed at 18, 19-year-old me. Now, this movie, if I'd seen it then, I mean, it's in my wheelhouse now. I can just imagine if I'd seen it at that age.
Yeah. I mean, like you, I'd never heard of this movie until it showed up at Fantastic Fest, and I had a couple of friends. I had one friend who had seen it, and another friend who was like, "Hallelujah, we're going to finally get to see this thing." I mean, I didn't know about it until recently, but man, it's so enjoyable. It's so fun. It's really a movie that you have so much fun watching. Mm-hmm. I mean, you don't. It's very kind of silly at times. I mean, the way he shoots this kid's like fake knives and things is the way that they shoot like big old commando knives in a Schwarzenegger movie. I mean, it's shot so seriously, and the kid is great. And towards the end, like, I mean, the montage scene of him having to bury his dog is borderline heartbreaking, because this kid is really good.
Mhm.
And when he's remembering like the good old times with JR, it's effective. I mean, it's not, you're laughing with it. You're never laughing at this movie, I don't think, because I think it knows what it's doing. It's not,
Oh yeah.
I mean, one of my notes was this movie's not an anomaly. Like it's all very on purpose.
Mhm.
I really wish this guy, I mean, I wish he would have gone on to do more movies because he's got a wonderful sense of humor. He's got a wonderful sense of direction. I mean, there's, other than the editing gets a little choppy towards the end of the movie, there's not a whole lot to dislike about the movie in my book.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I kind of understand what you mean about the ending being like a little choppy. Like there were definitely times where I was like, that felt like a little bit of a jump, but I guess I followed it.
Right. I mean, in what I mean by choppy is it's kind of things like the crazy Santa's got to go kill the cop, and he kind of shows up like back in the house very, very quickly. And it almost seems like there are little sequences, like cat and mouse sequences that get dropped in and they don't really make sense logically, other than to show kind of the back and forth between these two characters. So I feel like plotting it out, there's some things that doesn't make sense, and it feels like, oh, we had these great sequences, we gotta stick them in here somewhere because they're too good to leave on the cutting room floor. I mean, when Santa figures out that Thomas has shot him with a little tracking device and sends in the little tank with the tracking device is a really fun sequence. I mean, that is normally something, the turn that Santa pulls on Thomas is usually something you see the hero turning on the bad guys. And it's nice to see that. It's nice to see like how fun and how tense and how exciting this movie really is.
Yeah, it does make me wonder. The director's name, again, I have no French, is Rene Manzour.
I think so. Yeah,
and like you said, I mean, he's got some kind of weird credits. He's been doing stuff in France, the past 20 years, I guess. But yeah, he was doing young Indiana Jones stuff right up to 2000. So, but after that, he's been doing a lot of television in France. The occasional, but it looks like he's doing basically like CSI stuff over there and things like that. So,
well,
I don't know. Yeah. Sometimes people have that first movie where they get to do their thing and then go chase another direction. But he did an episode of Highlander the Raven, which I've never heard of before. I didn't know there was a spin-off of the Highlander TV series.
Nor did I.
I knew there was a Crow TV series. I knew there was a Highlander TV series. I didn't know there was Highlander the Raven.
The Raven.
But anyway, it as far as like, the kind of Christmassy-ness of it, it's coming out the ears. Absolutely can't have the story without Christmas. As you said, we think it's Santa all the way through. And it doesn't get, it only plays really with the Santa side of it and kind of the gift giving side and a little bit of like the kind of Christmas rush side of, the mom's at the store and her involvement over there is kind of what leads to what happens to her son. And as the movie was ending, and I was kind of like, yeah, he thought Santa had turned into an ogre, and the mom's going to figure out everything that just happened here. Everyone's in therapy forever from this family.
Right.
Like the poor boyfriend, what if he sticks with this family, the baggage he's inheriting here.
No kidding.
Because Grandpa's not, after this, doesn't have many days left either.
No, he sure doesn't. He sure doesn't. And what a wonderful scene with old Grandpa. And they do this nice establishment early on of how Grandpa's vision is so terrible. And they do these really wonderful, I don't know if it's like this split diopter sort of thing, but sometimes you'll get like Grandpa point of view, and the focus gets so wild, like so wildly out of focus that, I mean, again, talking to how technically like ace this movie is, it's great.
Yeah. The Grandpa character is this great kind of, he's basically just a big kid at this point. He's playing Dungeons and Dragons with Thomas, on Christmas Eve, and because Mom's not around, they got nothing better to do, and he's just enjoying his golden years, like playing with his grandson, and them both indulging the crap out of this kid. As long as he's getting his insulin, he's good. But yeah, it's a great character, and something, so it's not, maybe unlike Home Alone, it's not him just worrying about his own skin. He's worried about Grandpa through the whole thing. So we've got to keep stowing Grandpa various places.
Yeah. And there's some pretty tense sequences where you think that Grandpa is about to get it from Killer Santa Claus, and luckily Thomas has all the little sneaky passages in the house. And I really like Grandpa stowed in the knight armor the entire time. He's like, Grandpa, don't move. And he's like, Grandpa's like, it's gonna be pretty hard for me to move, okay? There's a really wonderful dynamics in, the mom really loves Thomas and loves, I guess it's supposed to be her dad, most likely. It feels like a family, and all those actors do such a phenomenal job.
Yeah, and we're so used to, like, to bring it back to Home Alone again. Catherine O'Hara's phenomenal as the mom in that movie, and I was actually just lamenting the fact I need to go, actually, as much as I don't love Home Alone, I need to go rewatch it just to watch her again. But it's a very specific idea of what a mother is. France may have a more loosey-goosey idea of this, even for kids. Mom's been widowed, so she's taking care of everything, but she's also playing the field a little bit at this point. But
and so many shoulder pads in this movie.
Yeah. Working girl ain't got nothing on this. But just go check it out. That's all I can say. I had no bones to pick with it. It was exactly hit the spot. We're way out from Christmas right now, but it was one of those things of like, I have picked a good theme for this year. This was what I was hoping for.
Oh yeah. It's fun, and looking at some of the recordings you have coming, there's some good ones. It'll be a good series.
All right, everyone. Well, I think that's about it on whatever this movie is called, depending on how you find it.
Deadly Games on Shudder, and everyone should subscribe to Shudder. It's super. Oh, I'll tell you, if you do end up, so my original pick, and I don't know if this ever came through, my original pick was Christmas Evil, which is phenomenal. It's really good, but I thought this movie would be a little more fun and more fun to talk about. So if you have subscribed to Shudder to watch this movie, definitely watch Christmas Evil.
Well, I did subscribe to Shudder to watch this movie because it's only like $6 a month. I was like, I can pay $6 to watch this and whatever else for a month. So I will look it up.
You'll have fun.
All right, everyone. Well, have a merry holiday time, and I'm not actually sure what we're doing next week because all Amy put down was to be decided. So, yeah,
mysterious,
very mysterious. So maybe we'll look Christmas Evil. Who knows?
Oh, that would be great.
But anyway, we'll be back, and Justin and I will be back in the new year. Not sure what we're doing. We've been throwing lots of things around, so we will see you then.
All right. Happy holidays, everybody.
Bye.
Here comes the darkness. Time to be sad. Here comes the rain. Please don't leave them hopeless. They'll become a man. They'll become a man. They'll become a man.
That about wraps it up for this edition of The Signal Watch, a production of the League of Melbotus. Thanks for sticking with us. If you enjoyed this podcast, we invite you to drop on by the Signal Watch blog, where you'll find write-ups of a wide variety of movies and more. You can drop comments on this podcast and let us know what you think. We do have a Signal Watch Patreon, and if you're so moved, we'd most certainly appreciate your support. We'll be back soon with more exceedingly high-quality content. So, until next time, God damn it, babies. You've got to be kind.